Good morning, Off the Gridders. Brian calling with another episode of Off the Grid, daily motivational and technical training for off the grid living. Welcome. Today I'm going to talk about snowshoes as an emergency appliance in your off the grid cabin. Any off the grid cabin that experiences some snow should have snowshoes in the cabin for emergencies. The snowshoes are going to come in handy for a lot of things when you get a big dump. Oftentimes you get a little bit of snow in a snow-prone area and it's no problem. You go outside in your boots and you can get around no problem. Many of us are skiers and we love skiing, and so we have cross-country skis available to us to get around in our off-the-grid environments, especially when we want to travel great distances. But snowshoes do have their place, and there's some things you can do with snowshoes that you can't do with skis and you can't do with boots, and that's what I want to bring up in today's talk. Snowshoes are extremely valuable for small spaces when you're working around the cabin, when you're working within a few square meters where you have to work, say, at your shed or at your cabin, or you're working on maybe clearing your solar panels of snow, or you're just working around and you need some mobility around the homestead, but you're not going a great distance. You're not going more than, say, 25 yards, right? That's when snowshoes are great, right? For the small close-up type stuff, where you don't want to be worried about balancing on your skis or slipping and sliding, right? You're not thinking about traveling a great distance. You're just thinking about puttering around the house, right? The homestead, and getting some stuff done. Also, for non-skiers, for people who have never experienced skiing and have never experienced snowshoeing even, they can put on a pair of snowshoes and start walking within a few minutes and get out of an emergency situation. So the snowshoes are great to have around for your non-skiers and non-snowshoers. Even if the person that you have the snowshoes for has never snowshoed before, they will be able to use them in an emergency to get out of the cabin and get to safety. Maybe to get to a vehicle, maybe to get to transportation, maybe just to walk away from a serious emergency. So they are a nice thing to have. Another benefit of snowshoes is for climbing hills. Now, cross-country skiers who use backcountry skis usually have skins that they can put on their skis or scales on the bottom of the skis, and many of the cross-country skiers will just climb with their skis. But steeper terrain, icy terrain, difficult terrain, rocky terrain, sometimes it's better to switch out to snowshoes, right? There are different terrains that lend themselves to snowshoes. Sometimes when it gets too steep, it's best just to go with more of a boot, maybe with some sort of spike like a crampon, and we'll call that a snowshoe too. You can get little spike plastic setups that you can slide over any boot or tennis shoe. They're very inexpensive. You can order those. That is a different form of snowshoe. It's just a little, like a set of spikes with a plastic grid that you can slide over a shoe. And that becomes a snowshoe. That's great for ice, right? And it can be good in certain steep terrain, right? Where you might be carrying your skis or your snowshoes to get through. So while it's best to have three different forms of mobility in the snow: snowshoes, your standard snowshoes, right? Cross-country skis, right? Preferably backcountry skis with some edges, right? And skins or scales to help you climb with those skis. And then maybe some spikes, an inexpensive pair of plastic spikes, or metal spikes with a plastic grid that you can just slide over a tennis shoe for icy conditions where it's not really snowy, but it's super icy, right? So there's some good reasons to have some snowshoes at your cabin, primarily for emergency, but also for just irregular chores when it snows, right? And for having some fun. Snowshoes are fun. For the non-skiers, they can go romping around and exploring in the fresh powder without sinking, down to their waist in the fresh snow, right? So not only for an emergency purpose, but for fun and for recreation at your off-the-grid environment. Online Land Sales strongly recommends having snowshoes. And one of the key benefits of snowshoes is that they don't require any training, right? Anybody can use them at any time with no training. And they can provide a lot of safety, and they can provide a lot of fun. All right, guys, that's enough on snowshoes. Once again, these daily motivational technical trainings are not meant to be a one-stop shop for all the knowledge under the subject header, but rather these talks are meant to get you thinking and get you started on your journey, and so you can go look on your own and find this information that you need. Thanks for joining us at E Off Grid. You can come back each morning for a free 5-minute motivational technical training session on off the grid living. We hope you're getting something out of it. Thank you so much for your time. Once again, this is Brian at Online Land Sales.